Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
Hello, everyone. Here we are again for another Mavens Do It Better podcast, where we interview extraordinary experts who bring a light to our world. I am very excited to be here at ESPC 19 in Prague, and I am sitting here with the awesome Elaine Van Bergen. Hello.
Hello. I think I want you to be my hype woman. That's awesome.
No problem. Happy to do so. So, we're here at another Microsoft conference. Well, it's a third-party conference, but there's a lot of Microsoft folks here, including yourself. You tell everybody where you're from and your wonderful job.
Yeah, so I am from Melbourne, Australia, so down the bottom of Australia, and I'm all the way over here in Prague, so a long way to come. And I work in the commercial software engineering team at Microsoft. So that's the team that goes around and codes with organizations that are trying to do some stuff with, machine learning, AI, kind of cutting edge things. We help them do that, and I specialize in the health space. So that keeps me super busy.
Yeah. So health space meaning healthcare?
Healthcare, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, wow. So you're going in and is it mostly hospitals or is it bigger conglomerates or what's the...
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a range because healthcare is different all over in different countries.
Sure.
So one of the projects I've just done was with a very large government department in Australia called New South Wales Health, and they're a bit unique because they actually have a part of the organisation that runs all the pathology centres in the entire state.
Wow.
So they have that kind of mandate where they can then do projects with that kind of scale, whereas a lot of other places, in Victoria where I live, there's 4 or 5 different private entities that do that same function.
Right. Wow.
So it's a big range. It's so exciting and different wherever you go.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you're based in Australia, in Melbourne, but this organization that you belong to and your job is globally.
Yeah, so CSE is a global team.
Yeah.
And so then we have some people which are in dev crews that spend all their time coding, and others of us that are specialised in industry areas. Yeah. And so the healthcare team's sort of one of the smaller ones because it's a bit new. And there's a bunch of the team in the US, bunch in the UK, and then a few in Europe, and me on the other side of the world.
That's so cool. Have you ever been to the HIMSS conference?
HIMSS, no. I've heard fantastic things about HIMSS.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list.
Yeah, for sure. For everybody listening, HIMSS it's the largest healthcare show that happens in the world, and I think it's usually in February, and I think it's in like Orlando a lot of the time.
Yeah, and they actually do regional ones as well.
That's right.
So they're all different ones all around the world with slightly different focuses.
Yeah,
so.
and it's kind of an organization too that I think one can belong to in different ways with chapters and that kind of stuff. There's some of that too. That's super cool.
Yeah, and we're quite lucky in that at Microsoft we have industry teams that are in the local subsidiaries. So in Australia there's a healthcare team, and they have a doctor who's a member of the team, an ex-nurse as well. So as a technologist, I can then partner with them and make sure that anything we're doing is, ethically aligned and actually, because obviously someone can't just learn healthcare.
Right.
super quickly.
Like, boom, and now I know everything. Yeah, I'm a doctor. Snap, my gloves. Yeah. That's so wild. So I guess that begs the question, like how you get to leverage these people and work with them and understand things. How much healthcare knowledge did you have kind of coming into this, and did it matter, or was it like I can learn this, or?
Yeah, so I had a little bit in that I'd worked with a bunch of hospitals in my previous consulting jobs, and a few other organisations, but yeah, definitely not able to talk all those acronyms when I came in, and as we're a team that works together, sort of picked up a bunch of those. But also I've been learning a lot about what we should do and what we shouldn't do. In my first healthcare projects, it's always been impressed on me that we don't want to replace clinicians or, actual medical experts.
Yeah. With robots.
And that's one area where I think we differentiate it at Microsoft compared to some of the other players in the market, where we talk about human plus robot can hopefully help do things. And that's, there's some great scenarios where we can help give overworked clinicians more time to spend with their patients by taking a little load off them.
Yeah. Sure. That's super cool. So how did you get started in IT? Like where you from, like that origin story stuff?
Yeah, I was a natural born geek. So I've always been into IT. The story my dad tells is that when I was a kid, I wanted a computer, and so he gave me parts of a computer, and we had to build it together.
Oh wow, that's so awesome!
Yeah, he used to work in IT, so and I can't even remember if that's true or not, but that's his story, right? And that's then cool. Even at school, I did IT stuff. Went into a degree which was joint electrical engine computer science.
Okay.
Because I thought initially I wanted to build computers, and then really loved the programming stuff the most.
Yeah.
So, and ended up bouncing around through a bunch of different companies doing a bit of consulting, and then landed at OBS, which was a company that built Nintex.
Yeah,
did a little bit of
that's right.
product and consulting.
Yeah.
Eventually made my way to Microsoft.
Wow, sure. That's a cool trajectory. I love your story about your dad. That's so pretty cool. I wonder, do you guess like what computer it was potentially? I know you don't remember, but like I wonder what it was, like, or if like a Commodore 64
It'd be like,
or
something.
It
would have. We had a BBC computer at home before that, so that was, but it would have been like an x86 or it was just that era.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Did you feel like growing up in Australia, like in Melbourne as well, that is tech one of those things? You've always been a geek, right? You were just saying, like, is that something that's really prevalent there? As far as like going after that when you were in school, and then I'm sure there's colleges and stuff. But is tech like something that a lot of people go into?
Seem to be relatively prominent, and I guess. Yeah, I was lucky in that wasn't until I got to university and there was only one other female in the electrical engineering class that I was in that I even had any concept of perhaps not everyone goes into IT. And I loved it. So, it was kind of, never sort of saw any of that other side of things. But... yeah, I mean, I'm part of this organisation at the moment called Science and Technology Australia, as one of the superstars of STEM, and the purpose of that is to get all these science and technologists out into the media and talking to kids at schools and stuff. Because the scary thing is in Australia, the numbers of people coming out of school and going into science and tech, particularly females, is actually going down. It's lower than when I came out of school.
Wow. And you're not that old, but
and I know, it's a little while ago, and it should be going up.
Right. Yeah, one would think. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question because I also balance that out with so many people that I know, and the reason that was... we had to kind of apply for it, and it was a big competition to kind of get in. And the reason I did that was because so many people I know accidentally ended up in IT, and they love it. Yeah. Particularly people from diverse backgrounds.
Right.
They thought IT was going to be boring, or they'd be locked in a basement coding or whatever. And it's not any of that stuff.
No, it's
and
not.
And they love it.
Not.
So
yeah.
I don't know whether that's some of the reasoning.
Right.
I was talking to another person last week who's in kind of tertiary education, and around how when people come out of school with high marks, they're told they should do medicine or law.
Right.
And IT would waste their time. And I'm like, well, maybe that's part of it, but that's always been around.
Yeah, completely. I wonder if it's also about like that it's not seen as creative.
Yes.
As well. Like to me, being a theater major, I thought technology was the one place that I had seen where the excitement and the passion and that creativity was on point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why something I always make sure I talk about, particularly to school students and, you know, young people in the industry, because, I mean, that's part of what I loved about it. You don't have to follow all the rules either.
Yeah.
You know.
Right, you can break stuff.
You can break
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You try different ways. That's what it's all about. I can't draw. I can't paint. People can't even read my handwriting. But I
You are
can
kind
build
of a doctor,
something.
Yeah.
So yeah, my form of creativity is putting some code together that does something awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with what you're doing with healthcare, and we've got, you know, Office 365 and the teams and all of that stuff, what are you seeing for that space that they're really latching on to?
Yeah, well, some of it is really simple things, because particularly in the healthcare market, well, it's not particularly unique, I guess. They have less money than some other places, and they've always got this competing kind of thing where I could buy a machine that saves someone's life, or I could do an IT project.
Yeah, right.
And most of the time, you're going to buy the machine.
IT's not winning that
Yeah,
as much.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, but those systems that they do have get really, really old.
Yeah.
They're still awesome, but they're not great to interact with. So we're seeing a lot of popularity in putting, you know, Power Apps and Power Automate and Flow on top of things, or pushing just notifications into Teams, and getting the data to where people can collaborate on it, not necessarily removing it from that awesome system, but, you know, just here's a nice interface where you can enter things in.
Right. Yeah.
Or see a report in Power BI is another amazing, just proper reports. Some of the reports that I've seen coming out of health that the people are using look like 20 years ago, because that's when they were built.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Wow. And so what do you do when you're not traveling? Because how much do you travel?
Oh, it depends month to month.
Yeah.
So this month I've traveled a lot, because but it's been for like 4 different completely unrelated things.
Work and play?
Mostly work. I went to Science Meets Parliament, to where they connect technologists and scientists with politicians in Australia.
What? That's cool.
So that was super cool and interesting, and they teach us about how politics works and how you can potentially influence that. And then this conference, obviously, awesome. And then before that, we were lucky enough to have Satya visit Sydney, so had a big event for that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So when you aren't doing the travel, like getting some balance in your life, what's your recipe for success there?
Well, I mean, what I love about Microsoft is how flexible it is. So, you know, sometimes, particularly to get to somewhere like Prague, you have to fly on a Saturday or a Sunday, and so then you know you typically won't work a couple of days, and most of the time I'll spend a lot of time working from home, which is great. Like Monday I'll drive my kids to school, pick them up from school,
and
just all that kind of thing, chilling out at home.
That's cool.
Yeah, over Christmas everyone's like, oh, you're gonna go away? I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna actually be at home.
There is something to the recharge, and the rebalancing yourself when you've just I travel a lot too, as you know. We see each other at these things a lot, and half the time, we pass each other, give each other a high five, and like everybody, you know this, but when we were walking up here, I was about to go to the bathroom, and we were coming over to find a place to sit, and I think you and I both yawned so big that we could have caught like a million flies. It was just, we were both like, okay, we're gonna get this done, but you know what I mean. It gets
exhausting.
It gets really tough.
Yeah, and so the last thing I want to do over a holiday period is then go on holidays when everyone else is on holidays.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that. Yes, no, yeah.
I'll go when it's nice and quiet, and again, the work flexibility is great for that.
Absolutely. And how long have you been at Microsoft then?
Almost 3 years.
Okay.
Flies really fast.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a blink. And you said you were a consultant before. What were you doing then?
Yeah, so I had an interesting career trajectory in that I've worked at a bunch of different places, and I kept ending up managing teams of people. So
not Microsoft teams,
yeah,
but
I
teams,
know you've got a lowercase teams
of people. Yeah,
yes,
actual humans.
Yes, right. Actual humans.
Yes, okay.
Which I liked, but I really love technical stuff. And so I've sort of, at one stage I was managing a team of 80 people, for example.
Wow. That's a lot.
There's a lot of people. And obviously that wasn't all 80 reporting to me.
Right.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. Is it the same thing as they say with kids? Like if you have 3, you can just have 4 and it's fine. And so like if you have 50 and there's another 30, it's totally cool.
Not if you want to do it well.
Yeah, right.
No, I like to say that people should manage directly anyway, more than about 5 people, because you just don't have time. So with that many people, you have all kinds of managers below you that manage their teams and report up. But yeah, I don't mind managing people. I thought it was fun, but no one ever came to me and said, "Hey, you're the best manager I've ever met." Well, I did get compliments, some of the technical stuff, hey, I need you to answer this question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I love about Microsoft. There's roles where you don't have to manage people to move up in the hierarchy, where most everywhere else you hit that ceiling and you have to manage people whether you like it or not, or want to or not.
yeah, absolutely. And there's an art to it as well. And, not everybody is a manager.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've done an MBA and a bunch of other courses, and, I think I was a good manager, but it wasn't my passion.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't my passion. Tech stuff's my passion. And I don't mind roles where I do a lot of tech and still manage some people, but when you get to that stage of having a large team where you're spending all your time managing people and KPIs and budgets and all that kind of thing, that's not my thing, and it's other people love it. Yeah. They should do that.
Have you ever owned your own business? And maybe that's a no because of all that stuff you were like, that's a big for me.
Not for me, yeah.
Any desire?
No, not at this stage in my career. Who knows, maybe later. I mean, I'm divorced and got 2 kids, and the stability of having a job where I know everything that's happening, it's not going up and down, is what I'm after. Yeah,
you can't see the smile on her face about that, but it's a pretty big one. And it is an interesting thing because it's like I don't know, I think we all look at that, whether to be a consultant, and you were a consultant for a while, and the ebb and flow. How was that for you? I mean, did you really feel like the roller coaster of being a consultant, of getting jobs in and not, and things going away and stuff?
Yeah, and luckily, when I worked at OBS, Brian Cook and Brett, the managers,
that's when I met you.
Yeah,
because we knew each other a long time.
Yes.
Way back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was like, I've known you forever. So.
Yeah, and they had great ways where they'd explain a lot of that to the team and to the employees. So we always knew, like, how you make money in consulting, and I always knew that pretty much a month before financial year ends every year I want to quit because you do, it's just so busy. But I guess when you get taught and learn about how the business actually works, I think that's a lot easier to cope with. I didn't mind the pressure. I quite liked that piece of it for consulting. But I do with startup stuff, I live vicariously through some things that I do, like SheEO, which is an organisation where they preach radical generosity to startups. So essentially, what you do as a activator, which is what I am, is we give $1,100 a year, and it's not like an investment. You just give the money, and then you get to vote from a bunch of female-led startups that are all trying to change the world, to work on the world's to-do list. Wow. And you vote for who's going to be the winners of that. Yeah. And then the people that get through the final, they get together, the women running the businesses, and they decide how to divide up what's a 5-year loan. And it's been running in Canada for quite a few years. And
what's it called again?
SheEO.
SheEO. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so
And so it's super cool because you just meet so many amazing women running businesses and all the things they're solving and all that kind of thing. And then you can still, obviously, even if they're not finalists, you get connected with all these people and see what they're doing in their businesses. It's amazing. Yeah. And so far, everyone's paid back the money over those 5-year terms, and then it becomes, in Canada, because it's been running long enough, essentially a perpetual fund now. Right. In Australia, it's only been running this is the second year.
Got it. That's so cool. With the healthcare stuff, do you find that, are you working mostly with like the IT admin, or are you you said you work with a bunch of different people, but is there like sort of one scenario that sticks out to you?
If we were working purely with IT, I would flag it as an issue.
Well, fair enough. I mean, fair enough, right?
Yeah. And there's always, I mean, you do have to be very careful about, we were doing something recently where some ER surgeons were involved, and they're pretty busy people. They've got really important lives to save.
Yeah, right.
So, they're not going to turn up to every meeting, and you have to be very careful with their time.
Yeah.
But typically there's always some actual, what you'd call business users
Yeah, totally.
involved, particularly anything, it's change management 101 with AI, machine learning, those kind of things.
Yeah.
You have to get people involved early.
Yeah.
Make sure they understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and they have a big say in the design because we're building it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was recently at the doctor, and I was for some routine stuff, and I always, I'm sure you do this too. Whenever you're anywhere, you always like peek around to see what version of like the cash register or the monitor in your doctor's office or whatever. And and that was something with HIMSS too, in a way that I felt like, with healthcare, because I worked doing some cybersecurity stuff for a bit, and that's why I went to HIMSS. And like it seemed to me that healthcare, financial services, utilities, those three were seemingly, to me, my own personal opinion, a little bit more behind.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much that happens in healthcare still with paper even. And that's why some scenarios where we're doing amazing things with data and analysing it or looking at x-rays or whatever. But then, a lot of those, hey, just provide a Power App form where someone can actually type a reading. So, for example, the recent project we did was around collecting point of care testing and getting it into Azure and then doing some results off it. Because what often happens is someone will go and take a patient's test result, write it on a bit of paper, then go over, type it into the machine that it goes into. Sometimes they are direct connected, but sometimes they're not. And in this case, we've just, sort of hooked up these 5 point of care testing devices to a particular IoT hub that then can communicate securely.
Wow.
But that also means not only the results actually going in, so there's no typing errors or writing errors, but then in this case, we're using it to help predict the risk of sepsis for that patient.
Wow.
And then we can send a notification through to the clinician to say if the patient is medium or high likelihood that they should then run a bunch of other tests. Whereas in the past, the doctor would have to go and check a screen for some of that.
Absolutely.
And that's a fairly simple scenario. But it's just gone into 7 pathology centres in New South Wales, and then hopefully it'll roll out further and could end up saving lives, which is an amazing scenario New South Wales has done.
And I wonder, will they sort of pilot that, and that'll become the standard way to do whatever is going next?
So it started with sepsis because it's a relatively easy model, so it doesn't require a huge amount of computation. It's sort of and it's a nice scenario because it is also the leading killer of
most people worldwide.
So it's a really impactful one, but not hugely technically complex. And now they've piloted in these pathology centres. You can ramp up to a whole bunch more. So that was sort of part of Satch's keynote presentation when he was in Australia. That one.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I find the healthcare industry super fascinating, and like I was, again, the doctor thing. I did I'm with I won't say any actual names of healthcare providers, but I have one that I pay for, and thank you, Affordable Care Act in the United States. And there's around the West Coast, that particular provider is in Washington State, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. Okay. And great. Well, I'm in the Southern California dealio. I used to live in Northern California, so I have a Southern California number, medical ID number. I have a NorCal ID number. I went up to Washington, and I had to deal with this molar that I got pulled out of my face, and I've got a Washington State number. And when I lived in Hawaii, I have a Hawaii number. Now, my medical records do not
Yeah, they're not synced between all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, and it's very common, and and of course, it does matter when you're young and really healthy.
Totally, right? Yeah,
but
and you don't care, and you're like, who was that doctor anyway? Right? Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of things that get missed, not through any fault of the clinicians, but where somebody's had maybe an allergy to a medication at one place, and because those records aren't synced, they've got no idea, and if they can't tell people, it can cause real issues. So. Yeah, creating a unified electronic medical records, very, very popular. And even just, I mean, your experience was probably also a lot of waiting, right? Like, how much time did you actually spend waiting or on the phone or booking appointments versus the actual medical care?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, when I'm in my area, I can use my app.
Yep.
I can do my prescription, all that kind of jazz. But when they have this visiting thing that's kind of cool. If you're on assignment or whatever, you can use it, but you have to call. You have to figure out if you can get, labs moved over there, or you have to go get a new doctor. And, if you have routine labs, or it's just fascinating to me that like we can save lives and are wonderful at that kind of thing. But just like literally tracking, that like I've gotten the rubella immunization or whatever, and keeping like I took a picture of my medical records in 2 different places, and I brought them to the new doctor because you know what I mean. I was just like, oh my god, this is bananas, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that when you're working, with the hospitals, like, do you ever are you going to them, or is it all on like you're mostly stuff online, or? Yeah,
well, yeah, it depends. Lots of IT departments of hospitals are actually in the hospital, usually in some poor little basement. Because again, they're not like patients are more important than the IT staff, right? So,
that's hilarious that they're down in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so it can be like that. With New South Wales Health Pathology, they have the best location ever because they're actually part of a government department, but they live in a place called Newcastle, where from their office you can see and walk to the beach.
Okay, that does not stink at all. Oh my goodness.
They have an amazing work environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. What were you presenting here on?
Building better bots.
I could just say that again because it's so fun listening to you say that.
Building better bots.
That's building better bots. That's fantastic. Okay. So talk to us about that. Tell everybody about that a little bit.
Yeah, I find with a lot of conversations I get into, people want bots and they haven't really thought through whether the bot's actually going to be useful for their users. So
and tell everybody, not everybody is a techie so tell everybody what a bot is and what that means too.
Really, a bot is anything that you tend to chat to in an interface, and so you will have seen some of the very annoying ones when you go to the website and a little picture pops up and it says, "Can I help you?" Those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah. And so part of what I talk about is that bots shouldn't pretend to be humans. They should
just be a bot.
Because as an end user, if you know something's a bot, you're not expecting it to respond like a human.
Right.
So you tend to be a bit more forgiving if it can't do everything, which it won't be able to do everything.
Right.
But also it should do something quicker, easier, faster for a person.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's cool. And how did you come up with that? Does it relate to like other bots that you're recommending for
it's come up a lot. There's been a lot of conversations in various customers that I've been involved with, and with bots in healthcare there's then a whole ethical part on top around should it be a bot, or if it's a bot, how do we make sure that it can escalate to a human, and that we do actually have responsible bot guidelines at Microsoft. So some of the talk has come from that to say, if you firstly people come and say, I want to build a bot and it's going to do like patient triage or something. Like, don't start there, right? I mean, it sounds silly. We all should know this, but it's amazing how often people go, the IT director said we need a bot. Can we do it for this human critical task?
Right. Yeah, right.
Let's walk a bit first.
Yeah.
Let's run later.
Right. That makes so much sense. That's so interesting. So have you lived anywhere else?
I was born in the UK, but I moved to Australia when I was 5. So not that I can really remember living anywhere else. I've always been in Melbourne, and it's so fantastic in Melbourne. I don't know that I'll ever live anywhere else.
You know what? It is fantastic in Melbourne. I really enjoyed it too. You know, people do the whole, Sydney, and you know, it's lovely. And there's the Opera House, but Melbourne's got a great feel to it. It's just
a bit more chilled, and there's great food, and Sydney does have the amazing tourist attractions. I always tell people they should go there. But I love Melbourne. I do love visiting other places. Not where I want to live. Somewhere else.
completely. And do you tend to see the community there? So we talk a lot about our community and MVPs and other all of that. Do you hang out with that community as well, and is it pretty big in Australia there?
Yeah, well, luckily, because I was MVP for so long before I was joined Microsoft, they still let me hang out with them. Yeah. They haven't shunned me for joining the Blue Mothership.
With them yet, right?
Yeah, right. No, it is a really nice, friendly community. So now there's some user groups that run. Now I don't think it's always a good idea if Microsoft runs a user group. I think it's better if it's run by the community. So often now, instead of the user groups that I used to run, I will be the person that helps them host it at Microsoft, because I need a full-time employee to get the venue. Yes, absolutely. But that also means I get to hang out with everyone and chat and help with different events. I think we've got Ignite the Talk coming up in February, which I'll go to and hang out with all the local folks. So.
That's super cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, every time I see you and when we have talked or I see you doing something, you are the epitome to me of somebody who loves what they do.
I do,
and it's rare.
Yeah, and it's not to say some people think that every day must be awesome. I'm like, well, no, there are definitely some hard days. Like, I mean, I went to Boston for 3 days.
Fair enough.
It was awesome because it was the first time I met any of my teammates in person. So I loved the time I was there. Yeah. But boy, did the jet lag kick in when I got home.
Oh my God, yeah. You're probably like,
there were some hard days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so every day is not amazing. But yeah, I get to use cool technology. I get to help people learn how to do that. And occasionally some of those projects will maybe save some lives or change some lives.
Absolutely. Changing the world every day.
It's amazing.
Right? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Can't believe it's a job.
I know. You always have that same look on your face. I'm always like, she loves what she does. It's so cool. So, last question or comment. I always talk to people about sparks or people and things or happenings in their lives that sort of really got you to where you are today. Is there something you can share with our listeners about that?
I think one of the things that really got me here was being part of that Nintex journey, even though I was sort of a very small part of some of the teams that built that product. But, like being part of a team that wrote some code and did some testing or whatever, and then we'd suddenly get calls and it's like, oh, Boeing's using it, or some massive company. You're like this little company of a few people down in Australia. Right. But yeah, I mean that was amazing to see how far you could go with IT. Right. But also the fact that the guys that ran that company were always very good at sharing how it all worked. Like it wasn't magic. So, I still use heaps of stuff I learned from back then in my everyday, because I understand how business actually works, not just
yeah, absolutely. And such good people.
They're really good.
And it is. I think I onboarded OBS and Nintex into the SharePoint partner ecosystem back in the day. It was one of those, because they were a little bit later than some of that the first partners. So yeah, that's cool.
And that's what got me connected with everyone that's here, right? Yeah, and just went on from there.
Absolutely. Some of those first jobs where you get to see the growth of a company from start to finish really do stick with you. That's super cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I've also my first ever manager, which was actually the job before that, Andy Newman, is still a good mate of mine as well. So it's just those people that you meet, and they're amazing at what they do and inspire me.
And you lift each other up. That's so awesome. I'm so happy we finally we've been trying to do this for a little while, so I'm so happy we got to do it here. It's a delight to talk to you, and I really, every time I see you, y'all, she has this beautiful smile on her face. You look happy all the time, and I don't mean to be like, and I know we all have our moments of not happy, but I really, you're somebody that I always look at and I go, oh, it's cool that you really love what you do.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things that I think we all can aspire to.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And, always lovely to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, everybody, that was another Mavens Do It Better podcast, and you can catch us on the various places on the interwebs. And here's to another big, beautiful day on this blue spinning sphere. The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.